Good morning. Welcome to the coach's meeting. That's the coach. Whoa. I'm Grant Cohn. And we're talking about Pro Bowls today. We're talking about Cam Newton. We're going to talk about Deommodore Lenoir, who doesn't get talked about enough. But the Niners haven't won jack yet. But they do have a juggernaut. And they might set the record for most Pro Bowlers in the season. The record is 12. 1973 Dolphins. And the Ravens did it. I forget which year the Ravens did it. But now the Niners have 10 players who currently lead their positions in the NFC in Pro Bowl voting, which means they could have more than 10 Pro Bowlers. If they get 13, that's the record. So, Coach, I'm quizzing you. How many of the 10 leaders can you name?
Right now?
Yeah.
Off top.
Start with the
Trent Williams, Brandon Ayuk, Kyle Juszczyk. Brandon Ayuk,
Ayuk
no?
is not leading in the Nope, not Ayuk. But you're right.
Okay. So Trent Williams, Kyle Juszczyk, Christian McCaffrey, not Debo. Brock Purdy. One more offensive player. It's not Debo and it's not Brandon Ayuk. Yeah, I said Kyle Juszczyk. I said Trent Williams, Brock Purdy, and it's not Brandon. Oh, George Kittle.
Right, there you go. That's 5 on offense.
Yeah. On defense, we're going Fred Warner.
Yeah.
Nick Bosa.
Yeah.
Eric Armstead.
No,
Eric Armstead? No.
He might make it, but he's not a leading vote getter at this time.
Okay, a leading vote getter would be
one more on defense.
Nick Bosa, Fred Warner.
And one more on defense.
Javon Hargraves?
Yes. So that leaves 2 more, and they're on special teams.
Mitch Wisnowski.
Yes.
And Taylor Haber?
Tabor Pepper. Okay.
Yeah, the long snapper.
That's right.
I think he just got it because of like personality. But
I agree.
He's the best personality on this roster.
He's got a lot of personality. I think that helps him snap the ball a long way. 10 leading vote getters. So those
I like that. That was fun.
Make it. Last year they had 7, I believe. 6. Excuse me. They had 6 last year. They have 10 at least this year. Who else do you think has a chance to make it as like a non-leading vote getter?
Debo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk. Definitely.
That would tie the record.
I would think Eric Armstead is still in there.
I would think Charvarius Ward has depending on
Charvarius Ward. You know who else that's not getting no love? Deommodore Lenoir, man.
Yep. And Greenlaw.
Yeah. And Jake Brindle. I think Jake Brindle's getting consideration as well, which is wild. But yes. Yeah.
So actually, they could make the argument if they win the Super Bowl this year and they have 13 Pro Bowlers and an MVP and an offensive player of the year and a coach of the year. And this team has a chance to put itself in the conversation for best team ever. That's what's at stake this year. Doesn't mean they are that, doesn't mean they'll be that. But that's lofty, that's heady stuff, and that's lofty aspirations. They can accomplish that.
It's all-time loaded squad. We're loaded.
All time.
We're loaded.
You're in the conversation with like the Dolphins teams from the 70s and like just in terms of talent. So no excuse. You could always play Jimmy Garoppolo. Did you see there was a clip? Eric Armstead's doing a podcast and he had Charvarius Ward on, and
I saw it.
You saw it, right?
Yes.
I don't know what he was asking about the Super Bowl, and Charvarius Ward was like, "Hey man, like our game
plan
was to put the ball into Jimmy's hands," and Eric just starts laughing, and Charvarius starts laughing. Like that's the deal. That's
he laughed sheepishly too. You saw the way he laughed. Like I can't believe you mentioned that.
Kyle hates him, right? Like he's on the Raiders now, right? Yeah, cool. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I mean, but at the same time, we knew this. This stuff is just kind of rolling out now. But I feel like what we see as fans, there's a difference between what we see and it being the truth and what we see and it not being profitable. The truth and profitable are not congruent. They are not the same, right? And sometimes the truth is not good for profitability. So nobody wanted to really look at the fact that Jimmy was being carried. Like that's the rub. That's what the game was, and that's who we were back then. And that's what we're fighting against now.
Yeah, absolutely. And now that Jimmy's gone and Brock Purdy's the quarterback and he's an MVP candidate, the perception about this team is totally different. Brock has to do with that. Because I think a lot of people looked at the Niners as, a flawed team. That was the Jimmy Garoppolo effect. Now you have, I don't know how good Brock Purdy is, but he's certainly playing at an MVP level, and it changes the perception of the entire team. Now everyone's great. Javon Hart is a leading vote getter. Tabor is the leading vote getter at his position. That's great. Tabor Pepper. Basically, I did this topic just so we could talk at length about Tabor Pepper.
Tabor Pepper has, first of all, let's just have a Tabor Pepper session right now.
Let's do it.
Number one, Tabor Pepper's digital footprint is goated. Okay. His social media presence is not only funny, but it's poignant. It's a breath of fresh air. He doesn't post that much. Okay. But when he does post, he never misses. He always finds a way to not only be funny, be poignant with what's actually happening right now. So he always has good timing. Okay. Yeah. And on top of it is we all forget the fact that he makes like tons of money because he's the snapper. He's a long snapper. So he also does kind of bring forth like this commonality. You know who Tabor Pepper is? Tabor Pepper has the effect on the fans that George Kittle wishes he did.
He's the people's long snapper.
Yes. Like Tabor Pepper, his reach and how he lands on the fans is what George is trying to do, but he just never hits the mark.
That's cold. All right, next topic. That's enough. Win the Super Bowl, guys. One of the best teams ever you could be. All right. Been talking about this since it happened. Cam Newton, former MVP, went to the Super Bowl, didn't win it, had a great season, 45 touchdowns, 2015, went 15-1 on a team that wasn't that good. Legendary. So he has all the license in the world to talk about who's an MVP and who's a game manager and who's a game changer. He's not impressed with Brock Purdy.
Right.
Not impressed with Dak.
Right.
Really not impressed with anyone other than Mahomes, Lamar, himself. What do you think of what Cam's saying?
One of the things, though, is I think he has a voice. That's one of the biggest things is that I've seen a lot of people trying to like discredit him.
He definitely has a voice.
Yeah, which is kind of wild. You can't.
He has a voice.
Come on, man. If we can sit up here and talk about this, Cam Newton can talk about this. That's one. Two, this does go into a little bit of what we were going to talk about today and some of the things that we've been touching on, like on the phone and in other shows lightly. But this is kind of a down year for the league. And I feel like that's kind of been whispered about the league for multiple years, that the competition of play in the league and the competitiveness in the NFL is just not what it used to be, man. You see, and particularly in the trenches, it's way different in the trenches. And there's some athletes in today's NFL that wouldn't even make teams years ago. So the scrutiny of what a quarterback is asked to do when Cam played is a lot more back then than it is now. I feel like now quarterbacks operate a lot more from the pocket because the game has created a pocket for them. There's a difference, right? Being able to operate from the pocket 10 to 12 years ago was a style of play that you had, right? But it wasn't necessarily a prerequisite. Now, the way the game is set up is the pocket is damn near built for you as a quarterback. And the quarterbacks who actually can operate from that pocket, they get a lot of praise. I remember when Dak first came in and took over for Tony Romo. Tony Romo was not a bad quarterback. Tony Romo just couldn't get it done in serious moments. That was the rub on Tony Romo. And when Dak came in, he showed amazing talent and he showed maturity beyond his years, but he was also playing on a loaded team. Okay. And he was playing on a very veteran laden team. And the minimal success that the Cowboys were having early with Dak Prescott was enough to oust Tony Romo for what would be perceived to be continued success down the road. But the fact of the matter is that not Brock Purdy, but Dak Prescott got paid $40 million And all of a sudden, all of the great things that we saw out of Dak became an albatross around what his true price tag was, is because now it's not the fact that Dak came in and was good right away and got Tony Romo ousted. It was the fact that Dak couldn't live up to the money once he got paid. Right. Okay, because once he got paid, now we can't put all of these pieces around you that you had all before. And you've got to elevate the team now. Okay. And you've got to be put in a position where, because of the price tag you get, we can't go out there and mortgage our future, because we got to make our draft picks work. We can't really be heavy hitters in free agency. Okay. Because because we're paying you. You're the investment. And I feel like because the NFL has taken a little bit of a page from the NBA, they want to protect their stars. They want to protect the names and the faces of these franchises, because football is entertainment. And the attrition.
Go ahead.
Oh, no, I saw you put your hand up. Go ahead. Go ahead. And the attrition. Yeah. One of the things that I love about football is that football is the ultimate meritocracy, right? And that's what I love about the NFL, right? Where nobody gets, there are no Nepo babies. Nobody gets given the benefit of the doubt because of what you mean to the bottom line. And now you're starting to see a lot of business decisions being made for these guys to kind of lengthen their careers. And I feel like the league is acquiescing. And I feel like Cam Newton was virtue signaling to that, where guys that are now being looked at as top 10 quarterbacks or legit quarterbacks, especially because of how they're getting paid, they're game managers. They're not changing the game. They're being asked to not fuck it up. So I think that's what he was leaning on. Now, is it true what he was saying about Brock? The difference between Brock and all of the quarterbacks that he named is that Brock has only been in the league for 2 years. So you still have proof of concept, but he wasn't talking crazy. He wasn't out of school.
No, I think what he's sort of saying is, if you have what he didn't have, if you have a really good system, which Tua has, Purdy has, and you have a really good supporting cast, which Dak has, and all you have to do is really stand in the pocket and execute, then you're a game manager. But it's like that, just because you can do that doesn't mean you're a game manager. Just because you can operate a system doesn't mean that you also can't make plays. And I feel like that's where I would disagree with Cam. I watched Cam play. Cam was absolutely a difference maker. He could go off script. He could change the play. But in terms of like being on script, on time in a system, now to his defense, he never had Kyle Shanahan or Mike McDaniel or anything like that. He had Christian McCaffrey, but he didn't have like a great supporting cast, and he didn't have a great scheme. But I don't know how good he would have been at operating a scheme like what the Niners have, or what the Dolphins have, or what the Cowboys have. Now, if you would put prime Cam on the Eagles, hell yeah, he'd be great at that. But I still think Cam's sort of knocking Purdy and Tua for mastering a system. Like, that's a skill. And the ability to work outside of that, in addition, is why people like Purdy. People who really watch Purdy be like, yeah, I mean, he's mastered Kyle's system. He can operate it on time. But when things go awry, when he's under pressure, when he has to make his own play, we've seen him do it. And he doesn't do it all the time. He doesn't have to. And he's not trying to be a hero, I guess is what I'm trying to say. You compared it to NBA, right? Hero ball in the NBA. Cam was a little bit like that. Maybe he had to be. But Tua doesn't. Purdy doesn't. Dak doesn't. And I think that's okay.
Well, I just feel as though that the game ain't the same. It's changed. And good on them. They got to be protected. The game is less violent. It's less physical. And I feel like they cover all of that up with speed, because it's shiny. But I understand what he's saying. I don't agree with him about what he's saying about Brock, because I don't think he's seen how this offense has been operated with Jimmy in it. There's been a lot of different quarterbacks.
Jimmy was a game manager.
Yes, Jimmy was a game manager, Cam. Not
with Jimmy,
Brock.
It was like, Jimmy, please don't throw a pick. As long as you go out there and don't throw a pick, we'll be fine.
Yeah.
With Brock, that's not the deal with Brock.
That's not the case with Brock. That's not even the conversation with Brock. So, yeah, I hear what he was saying, because for what it's worth, I do think Dak Prescott is a game manager. I do. I think when everything is going right for him and he's playing within the system, you don't really got to worry about Dak. It's only until when it's Dak and Dak alone to make a play.
Then you worry about the interception.
Dak on Dak.
Dak on Dak. That's what a lot of people say. Let's take a little break to do some Bet US and check out the hold on. Got to get the branding right. But let's check out the odds for this week. Niners play in Arizona against the Cardinals. The Niners have had nothing but complimentary things to say, which is interesting. They kind of tip their hand. A lot of times they'll sort of indicate that they don't think much of the upcoming opponent. They made that clear with the Eagles. The Cardinals, they keep saying they play really hard and they're way better than they used to be under Cliff Kingsbury. That being said, the Niners are 12.5-point favorites. And that seems conservative. What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, for the NFL, that's a big spread.
It's
12 points. That's pretty big.
For the 49ers, it feels like I still might take that.
I would take that too. I mean, we haven't shown signs of slowing down. I have no faith in the whole league, bro. Right now, we're going to touch on that. Like, this is our year. Like, you look at the league, bro. We're the most complete team in the league. There's really nobody left. Once you start seeing it right now, in week 13, you could be able to look at the league. So I would look at this cover and I would take that.
I would take that too. 12.5. I feel like the Niners have been covering weekly. Let's see what else we got. Rams 6.5-point favorites over the Commanders. Rams are coming on strong.
Mm-hmm.
Cowboys 2-point underdogs in Buffalo. Interesting. That's going to be a good game.
I take the Bills there. The Bills got a lot to play for. They're at 7-6, and they need to keep it. They need to get it going.
Good call. Baltimore on the road in Jacksonville -3. Jacksonville's
same thing. Same thing with Baltimore. They got saved by that last minute special teams touchdown in LA. They got to show and prove. They should have lost that game because they did get outplayed.
Kansas City -7.5 in New England. 7.5 for a team that's been really struggling to score against.
They're down. KC is down this year. Pat don't got no weapons, and they over here complaining about looking on the sideline.
Yeah,
like how hard is it for you to look at the sideline, bro? You got to check with the ref, bro. That's football 101. Check with the ref.
Eagles in Seattle -4. If the Niners were in Seattle, when the Niners were in Seattle, they were like what, -7?
Yeah,
-4.
Well, the Eagles better do something. They've been reeling. All right, this would be 3 in a row. If they lose this one, you know what I'm saying? That's an official losing streak. So are they battle worn? Like, did those 4 games take a lot out of them? You know, and now they're showing their true colors because that's what happens in the league. You win for a long time, you know, the bottom may fall out.
Yeah, Minnesota +3 on the road in Cincinnati. Nick Mullins versus Jake Browning.
That's a pick 'em.
I don't know. I kind of like Cincinnati in that one. Denver -4.5. No, +4.5 on the road in Detroit. I like Denver.
Detroit. I like Detroit.
I like Denver with the points.
Really? With the points?
Strong. Yeah.
Like
Denver
Detroit,
+4.5.
Okay.
Anyway,
all right.
You guys want to wager? Go to Bet US. Use the link in the description. Receive 125% bonus and get your money, get your winnings in 24 hours if you do indeed win. Bet US. All right. Now that we've talked about Bet US, we need to talk about the most underrated player on the Niners. He's probably not going to be a Pro Bowler, but you could argue I don't know, man. You could argue he's their best DB. Deommodore Lenoir. He almost had, you counted 3 picks in the last game.
At least.
Yeah.
At least.
What do you like about Lenoir?
What I like about Deommodore Lenoir is a couple of things. One is his dedication to the game. And you can say that, oh, he's a pro. He should be dedicated to the game. That ain't facts. We got people on this team that aren't dedicated. And what I mean by that is that when he came into the league, he got challenged a lot physically. And you could tell the type of player he was, but he went and put his money where his mouth is and he got his body together. So that's one huge thing. That's why I've always respected Javon Kinlaw, because it takes a lot to stay in shape, man. It really does. And for him to be a big man and to stay in that type of shape is remarkable. The same thing with Demo. On the contrary, being a smaller guy and adding muscle, adding physicality, that's a tough task, right?
Yeah.
He already was a smaller guy. He got bulked up. That's one. 2, coming into the lineup mid-season last year and basically locking down himself as a contributor on this team right away, right? Mm-hmm. He got his shot, and we've seen him on the field since then. Not only has he had his lumps and got better at the point of attack and physicality, but he's a leader now emotionally. I remember, if we all remember, you used to give us stories about how Demo was kind of like BA's little like kid brother. They used to go at it all the time, you know, and they used to have like this mentor-mentee relationship.
Yes.
Where they definitely used to try to cut their teeth on one another. I feel like that's helped Demo tremendously, man. And BA should kind of get a nod to that. That's Demo's OG. With Demo coming in, him coming into the outside and them having an issue at that nickel position. For him to be already coming in, all of the things I talked about, and being not only an above average starter, but physical, tough, all right, tons of enthusiasm in the way he plays, but then to get bumped down and to play nickel. Corners going from outside corner to nickel is the equivalent of a pass rusher going to D tackle or a tackle going to guard. It's two completely different worlds, okay? And how he's playing, man, one of the things that he's done that's helped everybody on the defense is that his tenacity on the inside at that nickel spot, particularly in the run game, is helping the defense. It's helping guys get there. It's helping guys rally to points of attack. It's also the tackles that when Isaiah Oliver was in that position at the nickel, he was a little too big for that spot. It's not that he was bad, but it wasn't his skill set. Deommodore Lenoir fits there like a glove, man. It's not so much of the tackles that Isaiah Oliver was missing, but you start to see how good Demo is in that spot because of all of the tackles that he's attempting and he's making with his speed. Last week, he had 2 drop picks and 1 pick that just flat out got called back because it was offsides by Nick Bosa. I'm going to tell you right now, man, we're going to have to pay him. And if he takes it up a notch with the consistency of how he plays, the only thing that I see with Demo right now is he just may have to just control his temper just a little bit. But he's become like an emotional leader on the team, man. Like, I really have been impressed with Deommodore Lenoir's play, man. Seriously.
Yeah, he's grown up so much. When he first came to the team and would stand at the podium, I was thinking, like, man, this guy does not look like an NFL player at all. He looks like a kid. And the way he and Brandon Ayuk would go at it, it almost felt to me like Ayuk was punking him. But I think you can't punk Lenoir anymore. Lenoir is like, he's gone toe-to-toe with Brandon Ayuk for years. And Brandon Ayuk's one of the best. And now Lenoir, he's not necessarily, I don't know if he's one of the best corners in the league, but he's so tough. And he's very good. And he can play outside and inside. And he can defend bigger guys, stronger guys.
Yeah, I'm impressed with him. Yeah, he is. Yeah, and you said it. There's a difference when you're a corner, but there's a whole nother ball game when somebody looks at you as a playmaker. And he makes plays, man. Yeah,
absolutely. Let's take some super chats. Malik Payton, Wisnowski and Pepper snuck in because of last game. They were good.
That was a sick run.
They were quite good. Rob Watson says Cam had 10 prolers and 8 all-pros. That was a stacked Panther team. He was the face of that team, but it wasn't a one-man band like folks remember. They had talent on defense.
That was that.
They had Luke Kuechly. They had Luke Kuechly and Josh Norman and Thomas Davis, and they had players in the D-line for sure. But on offense, it was him and Greg Olsen and Jonathan Stewart. That was it.
That's it.
That was it.
That's it. There was nobody there.
Who was on their offensive line? Freaking Andrew
Ted
Norwell.
Ginn. Ted Ginn. There's like videos out there of Ted Ginn dropping like over 1,000 yards worth of balls. That's it.
Ted Ginn was terrible.
Come on, man.
Yeah. Philly Brown, Devin Funchess, Dazza0187 says until Brock Purdy shows he can take over a game, I don't know if he'll be considered elite. He had 3 games without Trent and Debo and didn't look elite. It's fair, and it's still early in his career.
Fair.
Yeah,
that's fair.
Yeah. Take over a game. Now, did he not take over the game against Seattle?
Yeah, he can. But that's the thing. Brock is always going to be put in that category because of where he came in. This is an incredibly talented team. You know what I mean? But if you really watch us, which most people don't on a daily basis, but if you watch us, if you really wanted a Brock Purdy game, it was last week. He carried us.
Yeah. Cam completed 59% of his passes and threw less than 200 in half his starts that year. Why is Rob so triggered that he knows these stats? Phenomenal season, but Bosa game plan would have said make him play quarterback. I remember that season. He played quarterback quite well. He threw 35 passes.
And that's where we get a little wild with it, where it's like, are you bringing up these stats to say that Cam shouldn't have an opinion? Or are you bringing up these stats to say that Cam is being a hypocrite with his criteria? Which is it?
Yeah, I don't know. Matthew Sanders says the point is to win chips. Everything else is less important. Brady, Joe, Bradshaw, Elway, Aikman, all of them system quarterbacks by Cam's definition. I would agree.
I would agree.
He needed to flesh out his definition a little bit more.
He did.
Cameron Brown, this is for you, says Brock should be a game manager at this point. Brock should be a game manager at this point in his career. Dak Prescott should be a difference maker after a decade doing the job.
And that's what I mean by the difference between Brock and everybody else who Cam named is the story is out on those guys. Yeah. Like, you can't Brock. The only reason why the fact that Brock is even in the conversation lets you know that he shouldn't be there, because he's only in his second year and you're already trying to pettifog his success. That conversation isn't for Brock because of how young he is. Okay. Like, none of these guys looked like this early, right? Like, Tua didn't look like Brock this early. He didn't.
No, he didn't. Only person I've ever seen look like Brock this early, Jake Browning.
Jesus.
I'm a big Jake Browning fan. Madness the Menace. It seems like Cam is just salty. No one has picked him up, while there are a few quarterbacks that are still in the league, e.g. Joe Flacco. I don't know, man. How come
he has said that.
What?
He has said that.
So he's taking it out on Brock? Or he just
he said that there's not 32 quarterbacks in the league that are better than me right now. I think he said that like last year.
Well, it's true about Joe Flacco.
One of the reasons why Cam isn't in the league is because of right now. Because we're talking about him. Because his persona is bigger than his skill set.
That's true.
And you can't be a backup quarterback on a team where people are giving a fuck about what the hell you're saying on your podcast week in and week out. Like, Cam, he doesn't want to play ball. It's like, yo, Cam, you know, you're supposed to be mushrooms as a backup quarterback. You're supposed to be left in the dark and fed shit. That's it. You're a clipboard holder. But his persona is too big for that. And that's why he's on our side of things.
Yep. And Joe Flacco, who has really no persona, is back and doing well.
Yeah. Yeah, because he has no persona. That's why he's on the NFL team.
Kevin Stevens has been a member for 15 months. Thank you, Kevin. He says, hit the like button, everyone, please. Sure.
You kid?
Why not? I like that idea. All right. So this is a real great year for the Niners. This could be a Super Bowl year for the Niners. But for the rest of the league, it feels like kind of a down year. The Niners are really propping the entire NFL up right now. The NFL can be proud of this team out here in Santa Clara. But the rest of the league, like, it just seems like a forgettable team after forgettable team after forgettable team.
Yeah. It's bad. I was that my cue?
I mean, Miami was supposed to be a contender. They lost to Tennessee this week. Kansas City, we always think of them seriously.
Down. Cleveland's 8-5.
Philly is falling apart. So it's the Niners and maybe Baltimore. Baltimore is looked at as a team that can compete. They had to go to overtime to beat the Rams. In no world would the Niners have to go to overtime to beat the Rams.
Minnesota 7-6, Cincinnati 7-6, Pittsburgh 7-6, Indy 7-6, Detroit is 9-4, Denver 7-6. Like, come on, man. Cleveland's
9-4 says a lot about the NFC in particular.
Yeah, bro.
They're not good.
They're not. Like, even teams that like deserve to suck, like the Raiders, they're 5-8. The Chargers are 5-8. The Bears are 5-8. It's Tennessee's 5-8. Houston 7-6. The Jets 5-8. It's just like what I'm here to say is I feel like the Super Bowl is just up for grabs right now. It's literally anybody's. Whoever wants to be strong enough and physical enough to put together 1 month of good football can win the Super Bowl. That's how I feel about the playoffs. Because as far as the regular season is concerned, it's been down. The level of play, the competitiveness across the board, particularly in the offensive line, man, it's just been woeful. Guys are not playing full quarters. I mean, if you get a game where you get a hard-fought game where the game has to come down to the end, guys aren't even finishing games, man. Our defense was getting scored on and ran up and down the field precisely because of what? Depth. These guys literally weren't not in shape enough to finish an entire football game. So we had to go get more. Like, if you think about it, defensively, especially on the defensive line, now we're kind of like run our D-line like a Power 5 college team. Like, we're like Alabama and Georgia and Ohio State, where we got too many recruits to just run with the 4 we got. We got to keep a wave of guys coming in and out and explain it away as good football. But the truth of the matter is that the boys ain't coached long enough. They don't have long enough practices. They're not conditioned. And if you put them through a whole game, 4 quarters, where you made a unit play 60 snaps, the product on the field would show it. So what they do is they sub them in and sub them out. Imagine being. Go ahead.
Can you stick there for a second? It's such a good point, man. Why are these project quarterbacks not working out? Why are these guys like Brock Purdy and Jake Browning working out? Because the coaches aren't real coaches. They're scheme experts. They're not grizzled 50, 60-year-old guys who have been developing players for decades and know how to do it. They know a system, and they're cutting edge. This system is cutting edge. But what they need is someone who can run it, or at least can fit it. I think from Kyle to Mike McDaniel, they don't have the skill set, the background, the experience to quote unquote develop a quarterback. Andy Reid does, but those guys are few and far between. The trend now is the head coach is freaking 34.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, and the standard has changed now, right? Now, getting a quarterback used to be a coveted situation where you could hold on to a quarterback. Like, dude, the Packers are like dinosaurs holding on to Jordan Love that long. They're dinosaurs. At this stage of the game, people are giving Bryce Young the side eye. Trey was gone after 4 games. We know Zach Wilson's gone. Justin Fields is gone. Mac Jones is going to be on the heap, gone, right?
Yeah.
Even Baker Mayfield is looked at as a retread, but he was a number 1 overall pick. Yeah. And he's like matriculating through the league like he's Ryan Fitzpatrick. Like, dude.
And that could be Trevor Lawrence in a few years too, to be quite frank.
Yes. Dude, I'm going to tell you right now, football has taken the fantasy football route, right? Yeah. It's all about numbers, PFF, who can throw numbers in your face. But when you look at the product on the field and you see all of these brother-in-law agreements on the offensive line, I'm talking about, dude, titty blocking. I'm tired, you're tired, so let's look busy for a quarter. That type of shit. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Low effort, jogging on the field. I literally saw Coach Kasarik look Chase Young in the face on the sideline, mic'd up, and tell him, you have to chase him and give all your effort. Please chase the quarterback. He's talking to millionaires, bro.
Yeah. Millionaires.
Drake Jackson was on the mic in front of the entire football world and was proud that he could bench 315, 3 reps. And he was proud of that. And he said it out loud. Like, there's a difference between fodder and guys who are wearing this logo and they're running around faking like they're pro football players, and there's select guys in this league that are actually from that cloth. And those guys, that's the jooks. They don't want to admit the fact that this ain't the same level of competitiveness that they come from or that they were raised off of. But the money is too good for them to admit it. So they play half-ass games in front of us and call it like, you know, the Super Bowl or the play. Watch the playoffs and tell me that it's not a different level of football. It's going to be a completely upticked level of football.
I feel like one thing that's happening, though, there's a huge shift happening in this era of salary cap football. People are figuring out that the quarterback doesn't have to be your most expensive player. In fact, he could be your cheapest player.
Mm-hmm.
We're figuring that out. And, you know, the Eagles had that advantage for a while with Jalen Hurts, but now not anymore. The Niners have the advantage with Brock Purdy, and they really committed to it. They got rid of Jimmy Garoppolo. They don't spend on quarterbacks. They spend on everything else. And the fact that they have such a good quarterback who's cheap, that might only be a thing for 1 or more 2 years. They could pay Brock Purdy and be a much more traditional team down the line. But right now, they are a cheat code.
Yeah,
they are.
They are.
I've been talking about this on my stream for like 4 years. If any team could get it right, a quarterback on a cheap rookie deal who could play, you're going to win the Super Bowl. People always say, well, you know, there's no really historic precedent about that. Well, this rookie wage scale isn't an old thing. Mm-mm. And teams are slow to adjust. But once one team has success, everyone's going to follow.
Everybody's going to follow over. The days of like the days of finding like that all-world athlete at the QB position and keeping them there for 10 to 15 years, they're done with that. That's not profitable. You're not going to find another.
Lead to a bunch of Super Bowls.
It doesn't. And then you think about it is when you actually do get a guy who you put in the seat, he's not going to be Tom Brady. And what I mean by that is Tom Brady gets a lot of love for the fans, but the players, he has never been a help to. Tom has been taking team-friendly deal after team-friendly deal. And you know the way it was promoted? It was promoted as Tom is such a great guy. Look what he does for his own teammates, man. He doesn't even want to be greedy. He wants to let everybody else he wants everybody else to be paid while Bill is shipping out everybody who's due for a payday on their roster. But what he was really doing is he was keeping the pay scale down. You mean to tell me that Kirk Cousins was the first quarterback that deserved a fully guaranteed deal while Tom Brady was sitting back taking all of these lumps from Robert Kraft? Come on, bro. The facts is that Tom Brady's left the building. All of these kids are like Lamar now. They want to get paid what they're owed because they know that they're yesterday's flavor. And the league is going to start tamping down on the position. It is. It's mediocre now.
Well, look at Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen. Those are considered the two best quarterbacks in the league. They signed top market deals. Look at their teams.
Yeah.
Look at their teams. They're flawed.
Yeah.
And we all
holes all over.
Holes all over. And we knew it was going to happen. And they made the bargain like, that's cool. We'll spend $60 million a year on our quarterback because he's that special. Okay. Well, now you're 7-6. Now you're 8-5. And now the Niners look like a juggernaut because they don't have as good of a quarterback as you, Buffalo, but they have a way better team. And because of that, the Niners quarterback, who is very good and very cheap, is the MVP because his quarterback rating is 117.
That's a great point. And you know what's even crazier, though, Grant, is that the Niners and the teams that are following the Niners blueprint, what used to hurt them is the physicality of the game because you can't supplant injuries. The game is unforgiving. But now with the way the game is played, bro, why not get a juggernaut team and get a quarterback that could just pitch it around? Why not? If you get a strong enough roster in today's game, you're not even going to see enough teams that are going to surely test you.
Yeah,
right?
Why not?
Like,
it's working for the Niners.
The prerequisite for the league used to be that every team was physical, right? Every team. Now it's a style choice. Now you can choose to be Miami, or you could choose to be the Niners. You could choose to be Philly, or you could choose to be the Bengals. Like, take your pick. So now, with the way that we're building, the fact that if you can build a team that's basically more physical than the game. Look at the Eagles. They're actually telling them, yo, you can't do the tush push anymore. Why? Because we're exposing the fact that the league is dog shit across the whole league, and there's literally not a line or a linebacking core that can stand up to this. That's why they want to get rid of it. Has nothing to do with injuries. It's the fact that they want to phase this stuff out, right? It's about making money, keeping the points high so the people can follow the ball up and down the field. But the actual ball being played, where you get to actually see two men dominate each other, that's dead. It's over. This shit's a track meet now.
Keith Murphy, the Unbeaten, says Cam had a great career, but last time we saw him, he was getting beat out by Mac Jones. So what?
Yeah, like, I don't get that. Like, I don't get that. Mac Jones came in highly picked. He's the future. There's no way that they were going to bench Mac Jones for Cam Newton, no matter how much the locker room liked Cam. That's just not football. You guys got to wake up. It's not always about who's better and who's worse.
Dude, if Tom Brady was like, I'm going to need to see a little bit more from Brock Purdy. I'm not sold quite yet. If he said that on the record, people like this would be like, sorry, Keith. People, not Brock fans, would be like, Tom Brady's washed anyway. He's freaking retired.
Tom think he is.
Right. What did Tom do his last year? Purdy beat Tom Brady.
Yeah.
Head to head.
And if you think about it, if it's fair to go after Cam and say, well, Cam, the last time we saw him, he was getting beat out by Mac Jones, and Cam is just bitter because he's not in the league. Then why can't we say that all of the quarterbacks that are coming on the record standing up for Brock were trash, and they were all has-beens, and they were all backups, and they never did anything in the league, and they're virtue signaling with Brock because they see themselves in something that could not be deemed as starting quality quarterback and when they played. So maybe that's why they like Brock so much. It can play both ways. We can look at JT O'Sullivan and say, man, JT, you really like Brock so much, but what did you do during your career? Maybe you have an affinity for average quarterbacking, which now in the NFL is seen as elite. So, like, come on, Chase Daniels, relax. Like, we know why you guys like him.
I have an interesting memory. I covered the 2015 Super Bowl because it was at Levi's. And it was the Panthers and the Broncos. And the thing with Cam at the time, what was I saying about this? He was looking at us like he was going to be the greatest quarterback of all time. It was an MVP season. He was right in his mid-20s. People thought he was ascending. The game hadn't happened yet. And what happened in the game, he got hurt after that year. But anyway, Peyton Manning was the quarterback on the other team, and he was washed. Everyone knew it. It was his last year. He was having a terrible year. So he was doing an interview on one of the days, and he was getting a lot of questions about Cam. Because at this point, the game was all about Cam. I think a lot of people picked Panthers to win that game. He was the star. I remember one person asked Peyton, like, do you think Cam's going to be an all-time great quarterback? And Peyton real respectfully was like, he's going to have to do it for a lot longer to be an all-time. He's great, but to be considered an all-time great, he's going to have to do it for a lot longer. And that's the kind of thing I'm saying about Purdy. Like, he's been great, but there's so much more you have to do over time. Stay healthy, keep it up, win in the playoffs, win a Super Bowl before you're in the conversation with these other quarterbacks. So, yeah, great player, great start to his career, definitely deserving of an MVP, but you got to not get
He didn't finish. Cam didn't finish.
Cam didn't finish. Brock hasn't finished. Rob says, hold on. Purdy MVP. Okay, MDad says Purdy MVP, CMC for offensive, Warner for defensive, Kyle for coach of the year. Niners could sweep the honors. They absolutely could. John Lynch for executive of the year. Rob Watson says Cam is being wildly hypocritical. He's hating right now. I don't think he's being hypocritical.
Yeah,
manager. Is he hating?
Everybody he named with the short amount of success that Cam had in his career, everybody he named, he's done more than. He can't be a hypocrite.
Malik Payton says, when is the Jake Browning jersey coming in, Grant?
You know what's funny is you're serious. I know you like Jake Browning.
The fact that Jake Browning and Nick Mullins are both starting right now in the NFL, it's too good. It's too good.
It is too good. It is too good. We got to talk about this whole Jake Browning. I don't know where this came from.
I was just watching Monday Night Football a couple weeks ago when he was torching Jacksonville, and I was thinking, kind of reminds me of Brock Purdy. And then the announcers were saying it, and people was like, yeah man, like
he's a little bigger than Brock.
Brock is hella good, but he's not. I do feel like there are more Brocks out there. That the NFL has been looking in the wrong place at quarterback for 100 years. He doesn't have to be 6'4".
John Beck was Brock Purdy. They've been all over the league. Chad Pennington. Remember Chad Pennington? And they used to say he had a weak arm. Yeah. Chad Pennington was a dog.
Yeah, he was. Derek Burr says the Super Bowl can only be derailed by the Rams. We were their only challengers on the run. Week 18 is huge. We'll see. The Rams have a very good quarterback.
They know us. That is true. They know us, and they'll be much healthier when we see them. And then also, they didn't have Cooper Kupp when we saw him last either. So we'll see. We'll see.
Killamig says McCorkle took his job. Cam needs to shut up. McCorkle. Where's he even now? This is for you, Coach. Mike Monahan. FYI, Brock's passing yards and TDs, INTs are right with Dax, but Brock has 92 fewer attempts. Gnaw on that a bit.
Yeah.
My thing, though, is like, can you really give an MVP award to a quarterback on a team that passes less than every other team?
Well,
like, pass attempts per game, the Niners are dead last. And it's like, you have an MVP quarterback. Like, why are you doing that?
Well,
but I don't know. There's probably examples.
It's hard to answer that question, man, because
if I were Cam, I would have went here. You can't tell me he's a game changer, a difference maker when they are bottom of the league in pass attempts. Why? Yeah. He's good. I don't understand.
Yeah.
I mean, they win. It's how they win, but still.
I mean, with me though, I don't. Stats kind of kill me because you can make numbers look like anything. You can tell a story behind a number.
That is true.
Behind a number. But the reason why I have warmed up to Brock, where like I'm way different than I was before the start of the season, is because of how he's played. Like his processing, you can't fake that shit. He knows where to go with the ball. He sees how Kyle draws this stuff up. He understands where to go. And what's even crazier is that he's going outside of the system to do things to keep the team going. Brock is not a game manager. There's games that I can name that if Brock didn't do the Cincinnati game, even though we lost that game, Brock was in his bag. He was all over the field. He was off schedule. Like, I feel like Dak is more of a game manager now, specifically after he got his injury, after he hurt his ankle.
Agree.
He's a lot more stationary. Yeah, a lot more. And people don't even recognize that about Dak. It's like it's forgotten that he got hurt. Yeah. But Brock is not a game, especially with 2 years in. You can't just say he's a game manager with the requisite success that he's had. If you want to say that he maybe not have the full breadth of being the unquestionable leader that everybody leans on, well, of course, he's 2 years in and the team is filled with veterans. But a game manager, he's not. He's had his
game manager. You think of a guy who's afraid of making mistakes, and so what they're doing out there is going out there and not playing confidently, and trying not to make mistakes. That was Jimmy. After a while, that was Alex Smith. And you can win with game managers, but Brock, what defines Brock is his confidence. Yeah.
Brock got heart. And that's another, he ain't no bitch. Yeah. So all of those things don't add up with game manager. I've seen even some of the picks that he was throwing was because he was trying to do too much. Like he was trying to force the game and be aggressive. Like that's, I don't see him like sitting back and being pillow princess. Brock's not a game manager.
Daz says, is the NFL down generally, or are teams like the Chiefs just waiting to turn it on during the playoffs? That's a good question.
But the fact that you can wait to turn it on just lets you know where the league is.
Maybe Travis Kelce is, because he's had a down year for sure. Yeah. James Welsh says, if no other position is going to get serious consideration, it's time to change MVP to MVQ. Personally, Stroud has been impressive quarterback. He compensates for a roster in a way I don't think BP ever could. I've made that argument too.
Yeah, that's fair.
Argument too.
And
I'm like delving into hypotheticals when I talk about that, but I don't know. Maybe we'll see Brock in that context at some point. Oh, we did at Iowa State. Wasn't great.
Yeah, I mean, CJ Stroud is being asked to do much more than Brock is being asked to. Yeah. With a much less talented team, and they're putting everything on top of CJ Stroud right away. Now, if you want to sit here and say that these guys Brock is a better quarterback because he's on a better team and his numbers are better than CJ Stroud, then, that's up to you. If all the numbers do is matter to you, then that's fine. But there is such thing as an eye test.
Real quick, I want to look up the MVP odds because, hold on. Daza says, why does the MVP have to be a quarterback? Either Tyreek or CMC should be the MVP. I mean, after seeing what the Dolphins look like without Tyreek for a couple quarters, why is Tyreek plus 1,800 to win the MVP and Tua is also plus 1,800? I feel like Tyreek is clearly more valuable to that team than Tua. Is there any debate?
No, but Grant, it's the narrative that the league wants to tell.
Right.
They want the narrative that the way you should cheer for a team is top down.
Yeah.
Quarterback down. Everybody else is after the quarterback. He's the face. Yes. And when you get teams that are not like that, they try their best to shift that narrative. It happened with the Seahawks. That's why they lost the damn Super Bowl. Should have gave the damn ball to Marshawn Lynch, but they didn't like being led by a defense team and a guy from Oakland who wasn't going to fuck with the media. That's just the truth. And they got caught with their pants down. I'm going to tell you this right now, man. It's like the league is a slave to appearances. They want their football to look a certain way because they understand that it drives the dollar a lot more. And, there's teams that are going to get considerations like Tyreek Hill he's without question the best player on the Miami Dolphins roster. Without question. And then you can debate if Tua's second. And there's probably players that would even argue with you that he's not even number two.
Mostert might be more important than Tua.
Come on now.
18 touchdowns this year. 18.
Come on. Yeah. But that's the side of football that people don't want to look at, because how can you say that Tua's not the best player on Miami, but he's going to be probably the highest paid dude on Miami's roster when he gets his payday. You see what I'm saying? So
big mistake.
They got it.
That's a big mistake.
That's a huge mistake. So that's kind of like the business and the entertainment of sports versus the pure competitive side of sports that rubs up against each other, where the marketing sometimes doesn't match the competitive side. So, they finagle a little bit. It is what it is.
Yeah, it is. Yo, thank you everyone for the super chats today. Thank you for watching. I'm going to head down to Santa Clara, see what Steve Wilkes, Chris Forrester, Brock Purdy have to say. If that hat is backwards, I'm just going to lose it. Thanks for watching. I'll be back tomorrow. Friday's always a wild card day. We'll see what happens. I'll stream. Coach, thank you. Make sure everyone subscribes to the coach's channel and mine, and likes his channel and likes mine.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, everyone. Hold on. I think we got one more. Yep.
Leroy
Lozada
really nice, man.
Says, did the NBA rub off on the NFL with the loafing? Players not coming my way, so I'm going to take the play off.
We see it all the time.
What do they expect for 17 games?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why don't we make it 82 and really see what happens?
I mean,
the regular season getting too long.
Yeah, it is. I mean, and that 17th game is just, the product is bad, bro. It's just not good ball.
Tournament.
Yeah, we need an in-season tournament. That's what we need. The best of 3. The best of 3 game series.
See you guys. Oh, wait.